What childhood experience could be better than growing up in a family that loved to ride motorcycles? For a young Rodney Smith, it was a way of life that eventually turned into one of the greatest off-road racing careers of all time.
I started riding when I was 5 years old, and we were riding up in the trails and the mountains and stuff all the time. And I think probably when I was about 10, 11, 12, I started riding bigger bikes. I started cutting in and riding with my dad on some enduros and stuff. And a lot of my dad's friends kept going, "Hey, you need to get your son into racing, and he's pretty fast."
As Rodney's racing talents became more pronounced, the family weekend getaway shifted to support his racing aspirations.
Where I feel guilty is I kind of took it away from the family, and it all became about me now. I was the one off racing every weekend, and everybody else didn't quite get to enjoy the sport as much as I did.
Rodney turned pro at age 16 and hit the full AMA motocross circuit as soon as he graduated from high school. But he didn't stay long. He got an offer to race in Brazil.
I took a different route. I went to South America and started racing down there. And I don't want to say that it actually helped my career, but I do believe it kept me from being maybe just one of those top 5 guys here to being a top contender. I went down there and started winning every race in Brazil and got a lot of confidence. And when the GP motocrosses came down to South America, I did real well in them. And actually from there, I earned a GP ride in GP motocross.
One year they decided to have a 250cc World Championship round down there. And Erica Boers and all those big wigs from Europe were there. And Rodney shows up, he's got Hollywood cigarettes on the front of his jersey, and he goes out and he goes 1-1 in those 2 motos and just blew everyone away. No one had even heard of him. Well, the next year he has a World Championship ride, factory rider in Europe, based on that one race.
He would leave international racing as a 5-time Brazilian motocross champion and placing 3rd in the 1988 250 World GP Motocross Championship. He then returned to America to compete on the AMA 125 circuit. Though doing well, Rodney Smith wasn't having fun, the reason he started riding motorcycles in the first place.
It wasn't anybody's fault. I was not looking forward to getting up and going riding, and I wasn't looking forward to training. It was like I had to. And so that's where it became more of a job, and every time I got on a bike, somebody had a stopwatch on me, and it was like always somebody was watching everything I did. And it was just tough. It became a job, and I was the type of guy that if he left me alone, I'd get the work done. And that became a good conversation with Mike Webb later when he came up to me and offered me to come on board on the Suzuki off-road team.
I think we're in Nevada or maybe Oregon, and a couple of rows up, I saw a guy in UFO gear, like all Euro'd out. I'm like, on a RM, stock RM with handguards, and I'm like, who's this geek with the UFO stuff? And he won the overall that day. I didn't know who he was. So I kind of talked to him then, and then he raced another one later, and he won that one overall as well. And we said, well, let's put something together for 6 days that year, which was Australia. And we put together a program and got him some help, and I believe he finished 3rd overall, which is the highest placing American ever to that point. And after that, we signed a deal.
Despite the success in Australia, Smith still wasn't convinced that he wanted to stay in the sport. It took some more arm twisting by Webb.
We pushed pretty hard, but he wasn't really quick to sign. He wanted to wait and make sure that he wanted to get back into full-time racing.
He wanted to hire me for Team Suzuki for '93, and I turned him down. I said, no, you know what, thank you, but I'm not ready to make it a job again. And he said, well, what do you mean? We'd really like you to come on board with Team Suzuki. And I said, no, I'm not interested, thanks. And he waited about a week and called me back, and we had a heart-to-heart talk, and I told him exactly what was going on. And we agreed that if he let me do it my way and keep it fun, that we would try it out for a year. And so we did, and I don't even know, I think 13, 14, 15 years later, I had an off-road career, so it became good.
And once he got into it, the workhorse Rodney took over, and after that, it was a no-brainer.
After Rodney Smith made the decision to rededicate himself to racing, it became a lot less fun for his off-road competitors. With mechanic Mark Hyde at his side for the next decade, Smith was dominating, eventually winning an incredible 13 AMA championships along with 2 ISDE gold medals.
A lot of times before races, you talk to people about strategies and this and that, and it was all talk. They couldn't do it. With Rodney, you could go over a game plan and he could execute it. So that was the amazing thing about him. He was such a talented rider, but extremely smart, very good with his racecraft.
He's one of those guys that would show up and you just, you knew it was going to be a long day, because he's the kind of guy that fought to the end and never gave up. And, to beat him, you really, you had to really up your game.
He knew how to play with me. I remember there was a couple of times he came up on the line and wanted to talk to me before we started, and I'm like, I just could go out of the way. I didn't want to see him, touch him, didn't talk to him. but he knew how to play that mental game. As an experienced rider, he knew that doing that was getting under my skin.
As a racer against him, you could always trust him what he was doing. Because I mean, when you're out there at high speeds and you got guys on, racing side by side, it just made you feel comfortable that you could race with someone, and you didn't really have to worry about him, purposely taking you to the trees on that side of it. So from a competitor, Rodney really raced you straight up.
He had this thing about him where, he would make you excited to work hard to accomplish the goal he was trying to accomplish. Shoot, I think I put more effort into his racing than I ever did to mine. Rodney Smith has more national championships than any other rider in America. I'm prejudiced on this a little bit, but Rodney, in my mind, is the best American off-road racer we've ever seen.
For his versatility as a motocross and off-road racer at the highest levels of competition, including 5 Grand National cross-country titles, 3 AMA National Hare Scrambles titles, 5 AMA National Reliability Enduro Championships, and numerous ISDE gold medals, the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame proudly welcomes Rodney Smith.